Hello, good evening, good morning to our professor, Tony Musskopf. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me in this interview, this show, this live. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure for us. Please, people online, tell me if you hear us okay, if the video is okay. Please write down in the chat. Write down where you are speaking from. I'm presenting again the program Conexões Connection, the last one of the year on the Paraecological channel, based in Foz do Iguaçu. This is our first connection in English for the first time. I will try to do my best, but I ask everyone's understanding for my still evolving English. We are here, my colleague Gabriel in the support, volunteer of Paraecológicos, and I also count on the help of Professor Tony. Okay, Professor? So, thank you, Professor Tony, for accepting our invitation to our Conexões Connection, Conexão Teática em português, né? And it's a dialogue of specialities, a correlation of planetary responsibility with other conscienciological specialities to development of paraecology in connection with other specialities. So I will ask our friend Gabriel to pass our vinheta. So I always start making a brief summary of consciential paradigm, because everything we are going to talk tonight is within the conscienciological paradigm. And first of all, consciousness is the soul, the spirit, the self, and we have a multi-existential cycle. We evolve across successive lives. We don't have only this life. We talk about multidimensionality. We don't have only the intraphysical dimension, but the energetic and other extraphysical dimensions. Self-research and interassistance as evolutionary keys, and also to existential program, which is a program that we made before we come to this life. I also like to cite that all of this is studied in technical, scientific manner, and adopted the principle of disbelief. Do not believe in anything, not even in what you hear here tonight. Experiment. Have your own personal experiences. So, and I also like to always repeat the paraecological specialities, which are paraecology, conviviology, paraurbanology, and the matter Tolsen is evoluciology, okay? So I want to welcome everybody in the chat. I ask you to put the questions if you have. I want to thank you again, Professor Tony Musskopf, and I will read a brief curriculum of you, okay? Tony Musskopf holds a master's degree in Peace and Conflict Studies and a degree in psychology. He began volunteering in conscienciology in 1989 and has been actively involved in various conscienciocentric institutions, contributing to education and research. He is an international lecturer and the author of the books Consciential Authenticity and Lucid Parapsychism, in addition to numerous scientific papers and entries in the Encyclopedia of Conscienciology. Since 2013, he has volunteered with the Biblioafrica International Project. Tony's primary research field is the theory of Homo sapiens serenissimus. So, Professor Tony, we can start with our questions. Né? And the first questions that we want you to answer is briefly explain what parapsychism and lucid parapsychism are.
Well, Clara, thank you so much again for having me in this interview, and it's a pleasure to be here and share some very advanced ideas about conscientiology, paraecology, parapsychism. So yeah, these are very complex and advanced topics. So let's see if you can have some good insights and good conversations about that to understand a little bit more this new area, this new field of study. So yeah, parapsychism basically is communication. If I could put this in one single word, I would say it's the ability for you to communicate. It's communication basically, but it's not a normal or an average type of communication. It's actually a communication we do beyond the physical boundaries, beyond the brain, beyond the sense, the five senses of human brain. It's the extrasensory perception, is the connection, is the communication we have with extra physical, non-physical dimensions, which is the multidimensionality. So this is a very important concept in conscientiology. So we are not only in this dimension, we live and we interact with multiple dimensions. So parapsychism basically is the ability of a person can have, everybody has, animals, plants, all creatures have, to connect, to interact, to have some kind of link with these multiple dimensions. Okay, so lucid parapsychism, which is the topic I have studied for a while, is a little bit different. It's when you do this intentionally, when you develop this in a, let's say, a professional way. You do this with a lot of cosmetics, a lot of rationale, and you try to use this as a tool, not only to help yourself, but also help people and the other consciousness around you.
Very well, Professor Tony. I want to say hello to our friends here, Ana Lúcia, Natália, Regina, Cristiane Renz, Francisco Carlos, Lu está aqui com a gente, in Portuguese, in English, they are together with us. Thank you very much, people, to be here. And Tony, tell us about your new book. Huh? Why did you decide to write about parapsychism, and why the emphasis on lucid parapsychism? You spoke a little bit, but you can improve your answer.
Yeah, for sure. Let me show you. This is my new book. I had the pleasure, the honor to publish it in Australia a few months ago. And actually, I have a Portuguese version of it, and this is an English version of it. It's actually an expanded and more in-depth content in this English version. And you can find, I'm going to do my advertisement here, you can find this book on Amazon. And actually, this is a project that started a lot of years ago, even before I moved to Australia. I was living back in Brazil, and I was working in an event called Acoplamentarium, which is a parapsychic event or parapsychic program that we do in Iguaçu Falls in Brazil. And I had an experience. I had a connection with an extraphysical helper at this laboratory at this time, and the helper requested me, he invited me to write a book And at the time, I saw the image via clairvoyance, the image of this book. I saw all chapters, all content. So I have a glimpse of the whole content of this book in a matter of seconds. And this helper told me, hey, Tony, you need to write this book. This is your task. So I was like very touched by this invitation. And I say, wow, I can do it. I can do it. But what happened was along the journey, I moved to Australia. So I paused this project. And after settling down in Australia, I had the chance to start this project again. And finally, I had this final project. And the curious fact about this is when I published in Australia this book, I had another extraphysical experience with helpers saying, hey, Tony, thank you so much for completing your task, or your mission was completed. So they are very thankful and showing gratitude for me to finish this book. So I would say that this is a kind of homework the extraphysical helpers gave it to me. And this is actually about lucid parapsychism, which means something that you do intentionally, something that you can develop, something that you can improve using your discernment. I had initial or a preliminary test in this book that I present some topics for the reader to think about the difference between the lucid parapsychism and the normal or the instinctual parapsychism we can have. So, for example, the lucid parapsychism, it's based on assistancy. So you don't use this as a selfishness or a selfish tool. Use this to help other people, okay? You don't use this as in a mystical way, in a religious way. You use this in a very rational way. You don't use this to manipulate people, to convince people, to brainwash people, as a lot of people have done all over the world with their parapsychism, you know. So you use this as a way to help, to enlighten, to mature a lot of traits you have in ourselves. So that's the main idea of the parapsychism. This is a more mature approach instead of like a very basic, childish, immature style of parapsychism. And I present 126 lessons, which means this is a very practical guide with a lot of techniques you can apply at home with friends for you to develop it. So yeah, it's as I explained, it's a teamwork. It's like starting others, and then I start taking notes of my own parapsychic experience all over this journey, and this is the result. Okay, and I hope you have a look and send your feedbacks. It's good for us to continue these conversations about these important topics.
Very interesting. And I want to tell all the people also that you can get it with Kindle. I got it with my Kindle. It's very easy. In the right time you buy, then you get it. Okay. I want to ask you people here in chat to tell me if the connection dropped, because there was a drop for me a few minutes ago, and I don't know if everybody lose something. So if you can write down on chat, I thank you, okay? And I didn't say, Tony, that Ana Lúcia is talking from Xanxerê, Santa Catarina in Brazil. Regina is in Germany. Cristiane Hems está em Aquidauana, Mato Grosso do Sul. Francisco Carlos de Foz do Iguaçu. Luciana, eu sei que está na Austrália. Eduardo Doria, good night, good evening. He's from Curitiba. I don't know if he's there. Kim McCall from Australia too. And Regina wrote here, the connection was good. Okay, thank you very much. And if you have questions, please write down on chat, okay? And Tony, we would like to also to explore a little bit the ecology. So why does parapsychism challenge the traditional notions of ecology and environmentalism?
Well, when you start improving your parapsychism, it's like you change your lenses. You put a different lenses to see reality, and this is going to challenge a lot of notions, concepts, beliefs, ideas that we have about ourselves and about the world. And it's also impacts the notions we have about ecology, about environmentalism, you know. So if you start seeing, for example, environmentalism from the parapsychic point of view, you can start challenging or changing or rethinking a lot of concepts we use about this topic of study. I prepared a kind of homework here, so I would like to share some ideas, and perhaps this can start a kind of debate. One concept perhaps parapsychism can challenge is the idea of extinction. So the extinction is, from the materialistic point of view, the end of a species, the end of a specific DNA. So you don't have more like a specific animal or plants in the world. So extinction is a very materialistic concept, and it's based on a materialistic point of view. But from the parapsychism point of view, there is no extinction. The consciousness, it's impossible you to eliminate the consciousness. It doesn't extinct. It doesn't finish. So what happened is, if you have dinosaurs, for example, a species that was extinct, where are these consciousness, this animal consciousness? They are living in some other kind of bodies, perhaps planets, perhaps dimensions, or perhaps they reborn as more evolved shapes or physical shapes. So from the evolutionary point of view, you have like the theory that the dinosaurs evolved from reptiles towards birds, you know? So from the conscientiology and the parapsychism point of view, extinction is a different, has a different idea. And 99% of more than 99% actually, of all species that have ever existed on planet Earth, they already are extinct. So we are, all species we have at this point, plants, virus, bacteria, animals, whatever, we are only 1%. So extinction is the rule in nature. And sometimes you don't understand why properly this is connected to evolution, or this is connected to environmentalism. So this is just one example we can give you, okay? So people are like, the climate change, the crisis we are having in our environmental world, or the whole planet is eliminating a lot of species. Indeed, physically speaking, but from multidimensional point of view, these species, they are migrating towards different bodies. They are evolving toward different bodies. So these are hypotheses we need to study. So this is just one idea we can like challenge. Another idea we can challenge, for example, is the ecosystem. The traditional view of ecology sees the world, the planet Earth, as an isolated ecosystem. Okay, nobody lives it, nobody enters it. It's a closed one. But from the multidimensional, from the parapsychism point of view, this is not true. Actually, we are an open ecosystem. Our planet is connected to extraterrestrial ecosystems. There are waves of migrations of consciousness coming from other planets, creatures living in these planets have been transmigrated, have been sent in waves toward other planets. So it's like a lot of interstellar ecosystems are all connected from the interphysical point of view. When you see the parapsychism, when you had, for example, out-of-the-body experiences, when you see these extraphysical realities of reurbanization, for example, I'm going to talk about a little bit more about that in a second, you see that we are all connected, not only in this planetary ecosystem, but it's a more multidimensional ecosystem. So we are all part of a bigger plan that sometimes we don't understand, and we need to change the lenses to see this reality in a more evolved or different way, to even to challenge the concepts of ecology or environmentalism we have. I was talking about reurbanization, for example, and I was talking about extinction, for example. So we had previously in the history or the evolution of Homo sapiens, we have for example, the Neanderthals, species that were like our cousins. They are related to human beings, but they are extincted. They are not living with us anymore in terms of DNA. But where these people, where these ancient human beings are now, they evolved, they are among us, they are like living in Homo sapiens bodies, but in different DNAs. So all these things in terms of evolution, in terms of reurbanizations, in terms of how this dynamic of body and consciousness correlate, can be challenged by parapsychism. So this is just a few examples you can think, and you can try to reshape some ideas of planetary responsibility, because it's going to enhance even more the need for a responsibility planetary. We need to care for these resources. We need to care for these environments, because these are very important tools for not only us human beings, but all consciousness to evolve. We need to keep the balance. We need to keep the harmony of this whole ecosystems to allow us to evolve. It's not only to protect the species, to protect the environment, but it's to allow them, to help them create opportunities for everybody evolved in terms of consciential evolution. So these are some kind of ideas, very theoretical ideas, but when it comes to parapsychism, you can see some realities, you can see some, for example, transmigrations or extraterrestrial connections or new insights, new ideas that can point you towards these new paradigm, these new directions in terms of ecology, or actually paraecology, right?
Very nice, very interesting points of view. And we have a few questions here. And Regina found the book on Kindle. Great, it is available easily. And I will ask Gabriel to put the question of Natalia Mendola, please. Do you have any hypotheses about when a planetary change might occur that could lead to the extinction of human life as we know it today?
No, I have no idea about that. I think this is very far from what we are now. Look, let's understand, from my point of view, let's understand this idea. The human body is a tool, is a vessel, is a vehicle for us to evolve. So you can use this tool. You have boundaries, you have limitations. So you can work or drive, pilot this vessel by using instincts, by using very immature responses. So a lot of human beings now are killing each other. They are fighting for survive. They are waging wars. They are trying to make money for themselves while other people are getting more poor and hungry or This is creating famine. So you can be a human being, more animal, more instinctual, okay? But you can also evolve using this body in a different spectrum. You can be more like helpful. You can find a balance between economy, self-sustainability, and environmental, okay? You can think about the others. You can work in terms of communitary logics. You can go beyond the instinctual spectrum of that. So this human body is a tool, and we need to evolve from one side to another one. And when this, let's say, school, this planetary school is ended, when you finish all lessons, when you go from one point to another one, there is nothing else to add. So probably you won't need necessary to extinct the human beings. But you go to a different planetary school, you go to a different level, you go to a different ecosystem, okay? Because the apes, the monkeys, the other species, they will use this spectrum, these human beings, to learn the same or similar lessons we are learning now, okay? So, but sometimes when the whole equilibrium, the whole balance or harmony of this ecosystem doesn't matter or doesn't fit to the whole community at this point, perhaps you have a big change, a big swap in terms of extinction, evolution to different levels. So I don't know, but this is so meteorological, let's say, so beyond what we can think about at this point. It's just like speculations or hypotheses. What I can say is, how can you use your inner ecosystem in a more balanced way, in a more healthier, in a healthier way, in a more useful way to the others? So this is the most important thing. I wouldn't go to more philosophical or meteorological things that are much beyond our understanding, now because we have a lot of priorities to address at stage. Yeah.
Yes, and this you said has a little in common with what Luciana Ribeiro is asking here. Gabriel, can you please put the question of Luciana once? You spoke a little bit, Tony. Despite extinction doesn't eliminate the consciousness, this fact cannot be used to justify the current over-exploitation. Don't you think so? And you can put the Regina message too, Gabriel, because it's the same. It's in the same line. Hi, Tony. I had the same idea as Luciana. Besides the fact that consciousness does not disappear, it's a little a kind of how can we say, in your words, this is even a little comforting what you have spoke about. So she's continuing here. That consciousness doesn't. It freezes to me.
Yeah,
I think contributing to the destruction of ecosystem is not a cosmoethical way to act, right? They say the same.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say is the body, the species, they are vessels, they are tools for us to evolve, okay? We don't understand fully the logics behind extinctions. This is the rule in nature, at least in this planet, okay? We are all species living, I'm saying again, all species living in this planet are just 1% of all species that lived here. So extinction is the rule. When you say, oh, let's save the koalas are losing their habitat. Eventually this is going to happen, unfortunately. But this cannot use, as Luciana said, as an excuse for us to continue destroying the koalas' habitats, the forest or whatever, polluting everything, destroying our home. We need to look after our home. This is insane what's happening to our planet. Actually, we are downloading all landfills we had or we have in the extraphysical communities here. So the baratrosphere or the baratosphere, which is the hells, the community hells, the extraphysical toxic communities, they are all coming down and being here. So what's happening to the planet, in my point of view, in terms of environmental, it's a side effect of this reurbanization. There are a lot of consciousness, evolved consciousness, working towards cleaning the extra-physical communities around the planet. And what is happening is all this extra-physical consciousness, pathological consciousness, pathological communities are coming down, and they are reborn here, and they are expressing what they are in terms of wars, in terms of conflicts, in terms of consumption, in terms of exploring in a non-correct way the environmental resources, in terms of pollution. So this is a side effect of what we already have in the extra-physical communities. So that's why you were seeing all this deterioration of the environmental resources at the stage. So what's happening is these consciousness, they are reborn in human bodies. We are doing this. The humankind has driven all this negativity or these toxic changes in our planet. We are doing this. We are responsible for all this, okay? But at the same time, these less evolved consciousness that are destroying the planet, they are using a more advanced body, which is perhaps a different brain, a more evolved brain. But so this is a kind of paradox, because they are destroying what's happening or the environment we are living in with, but at the same time, they have the chance to use a more advanced body. The result is not so good from our point of view, but we do know overall what's happening. I even using parapsychism, I think we need a very evolved type of parapsychism to understand these logics. What I'm trying to say is extinction is the rule. It's eventually is going to happen. But of course, I agree 100% with Luciana. We cannot use this as an excuse to continue destroying or continue, doing what we have done with our planet, because we need to look after as a community, global community point of view. Is not only for our selfishness needs.
Very well. Very nice questions. And Natalia Mendola has another question. If you can show, Gabriel, please. If evolution is a natural process of consciousness, why do you think the Serenons recognized the importance of implementing the reurbanization process as a means of acceleration? And she's continued the question with, what is the necessity, the need of this acceleration? And then we are talking about paraecology already, isn't it?
Yeah. And we are trying to use the parapsychism hypothesis to explain that. Yeah. So why you need to speed up? So I'm going to give this example, okay? This is a mobile phone. This is a smartphone, okay? Once this get out of date, old-fashioned, because I have new needs, I have new views on what this tool is important for me, I don't need this anymore. So let's extinct this thing. Let's grab a better version of it. So the body is the same. The ecosystem is the same. So that's my view of the acceleration. Let's speed up the process. Let's leave the old-fashioned ideas, behaviors, traits, instinctual traits behind, because we need newer things. We need more advanced things. We need to keep going. Evolution is the rule, not stop it, not conservative views. We need to keep going, but we need to keep going in a sustainable way. We cannot destroy ourselves by using evolution as an excuse. So that's my point. So this is a very political point of view or approach we're talking here, right? In terms of Sereníssimos, that was point in the question, I don't know. I think it's too much for me. I absolutely have no idea. I can make some theoretical speculations about that, but I think this is not useful for us now. We just need to think, What is important for you? What do you need to improve in your behaviors? What kind of things you can change to make you a better person, a better citizen, a better member of your community, you know? Which positive impacts you can start doing by using the tools, the skills you have at stage. We need to understand our roles in this game or in this ecosystem. We are not in charge. Actually, I don't know if we have planetary responsibility. We have a planetary co-responsibility. We are co-responsible for that. It's like a teamwork. We are not in charge of this. It's like something that you do together, okay? We have our responsibility, but a partial responsibility of it. We need to do our part of it. We are not in charge. We are not running this game. Actually, there are much more evolved consciousness that are doing this. We just need to understand what's happening, what kind of waves are happening, and how can we surf these waves, how can we use this in favor of our own evolution and help the people that are around us. So yeah, I think it's important you understand our position on these things, okay? We are not the leaders of this. We are just part of these things. And we need to understand our communitary responsibility of these things.
Nice. Luciana is still completing the text, and we have a question here from Kim McCall. I think Luciana finished. Okay. Thank you, Gabriel. Because that we need to be more lucid and responsible to avoid ignorant or neglected contribution to this, to distraction. Even more, I think the nature's energy could be used to assist conselhos. Please, Tony, explain also what is conselhos. But for that, she continues here. They need to exist so we can act to contribute to this.
Yeah, I think we should change this. I think they need to evolve. Okay, because exist is, of course, they will exist here, there, they are, it's impossible to eliminate. The consciousness is indestructible, but we need to create conditions for everybody to evolve and speed up this evolution. So yeah, and actually the energies we have in this planet, if you have the natural resources of energy, we use this to speed up this evolution process. Because if it's all polluted, we don't have resources to speed up. So we need to find the balance of sustainability and evolution, okay? How can we evolve, but sustain like more harmonious or a balanced ecosystem for everybody to speed up that, okay? So yeah, but again, I think we are moving towards a more philosophical and theoretical discussion. I would like to point the importance of us to think about our inner ecosystem, what's happening here inside of our micro universe, our inner environmental world, okay? So this is important. When it comes to paraecology, we are talking about conscientiology, we are talking about consciousness, okay? We're not talking about physical, material things. We're talking about consciousness. The consciousness is in the center of this discussion, these conversations. So what is important is, how can we make this internal environment livable, more serene, more advanced in terms of get rid of the old-fashioned, instinctual, toxic feelings and thoughts? So I think this is more like approachable, feasible, objective for us to discuss. Because if you go to a broader stuff, we need a very advanced parapsychism and evolution to understand all these theories. But we are responsible to what we think here. And if, for example, if you start thinking about if you foster enemies, if you foster conflicts, if you foster toxic emotions, you are actually polluting the environment around you. So this is a very paraecological approach in my view. What do you think? What do you feel? How do you react when people, for example, give you an idea, feedback about you? If you get angry, if you get sad, if you get depressed, depending on these emotions, you are spreading toxicity around you. So from the paraecological point of view, you are polluting the world around you. And this is creating madness, this is creating more conflicts, this is creating a chain effect. So the self-hygiene of our thought scenes, which means the thoughts, the sentiments, and the energies are very important from the paraecological point of view. And when we learn how to recycle, to change, to evolve these ideas, to get rid of the old fashioned way of thinking or behavior, we are evolving and we continue to exist, regardless of where you are. If you are with this body, or if you are extra physical consciousness, regardless of where you are. So the recycling process, which means turn you old rubbish self into a healthier self, into a better self, this is, for me, is the most important paraecological task. And this is feasible. And this is your responsibility. You cannot point to think, the government are not doing, or no, it's you. It's how do you think? How do you react? How do you advocate for planetary responsibility is important, because you see, even in Australia, you see, for example, a lot of people protesting, fighting against mining, protesting against like fossil fuels, but they are creating a mess. They are like waging wars. They are very combative. They are kind of like soldiers. They are doing this in a wrong approach. They are actually polluting the world by doing this kind of negativity, toxicity, instead of creating a positive impact, okay? I think you can have more diplomatic, more like even positive clashes in terms of trying to brainwash, change things, like in a top-down approach, you know? So yeah, it comes to your inner responsibility. So how do you change and challenge your own self-environment?
Very good points. And Luciana completed her comments here. They need to exist, the immanent energies, so we can act to contribute to this. She was completing the comments she gave us. And there is a comment here from Kim McCall. I don't know if the name is in this way. Hey, Tony, from your experience with indigenous people in Brazil and Australia, do you have any thoughts on the relationship between the strong parapsychism and environmental protection attitudes in those communities? She's completing here in the other message.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kim, and thank you so much for highlighting this point. So, for example, I think there is a huge difference between the awareness we have of Aboriginal or indigenous people in Brazil and here in Australia. In Australia, we talk much more about the Aboriginal culture. We have even like TV channels about that here. We share the message in a broader way. And what we learn from those Aboriginal or indigenous communities, it's something that increase our environmental responsibility in doing our job in terms of the environment. So yeah, and once you learn more this, we get more connections with the land, we get more connections with the nature, and these connections with the land and nature increase our parapsychism. Our parapsychism is, as I said, communication. So if you are connected, if you communicate with nature, if you feel that you are connected with nature, it flows naturally, okay? It flows easily. You are more integrated with all these natural and energetic resources. And we can learn a lot of lessons from interacting with Aboriginal communities and indigenous communities all over the world, because they have a very strong connections with land, with nature. Yeah. The point is, the parapsychism, this people, these indigenous people they use, they are not necessarily more open in terms of global. They are more connected to their own land. But now we need to have a open or a more universalistic understanding in terms of parapsychism. So this is something that perhaps you can help each other, okay? You can learn from the Aboriginal, from the indigenous communities, how to get more connected with land and nature in terms of parapsychism. But if you have a more globally approach, perhaps you can spread this with more people, you know, instead of just defend and look at your own corner, your own box. So you gotta think beyond the box, okay? And these communities, they also need to evolve. They also need to leave their lands and perhaps live in different spaces and different dimensions, different continents. That's the reurbanization, for them to have different experiences and spread what is important from them as well. So yeah, I think the interaction between all these cultures at the end of the day, this mixture, this melting pot of cultural experiences, they help everybody to have a better understanding about this global, and not global, but multidimensional connections we have with land, we have with parapsychism, and we have with culture.
Very good reflections. And time flies, Tony. And you already spoke points of relationship between parapsychism and paraecology. But considering the 4 indicators of planetary responsibility from Luciana Ribeiro here with us, there are 4 indicators: ecological, social, political, and consciential. Do you identify other connections with lucid parapsychism?
Can you say again? The message was cut, that I had an internet issue. Sorry about that.
You spoke a lot about the relationships between parapsychism, but considering the 4 indicators of planetary responsibility, verbed from Luciana Ribeiro, she's here with us, and the 4 indicators are ecological, social, political, and consciential. Do you identify, because you spoke a lot about it, no? But do you identify other connections with lucid parapsychism and paraecology responsibility, planetary responsibility?
Look, I'm not like expert in those 4 indicators, but I would say that the last one,
if you have something more to tell us.
Do you hear me? Is that okay? Do you hear me well? May I continue? Are you there? I don't have any feedback on audio and video.
I guess, Clara,
I can't hear him.
So, but I guess you can continue with your answer.
Okay, so may I go?
Yes, let's go.
Yes, let's go. All right. So yeah, well, as I said, I'm not like
connection dropped.
Expert with all these 4 indicators, but from a superficial point of view, perhaps, or when I start seeing this, I would say the 4th one, the consciential indicator of planetary responsibility, is the more important one, because it encompasses all the others. You know, when you talk about ecological, we'll talk about consciousness. When you talk social, is consciousness. Political is consciousness. So everything is consciousness. So if you see from the consciential point of view, you can have a broader view of all these things. So as I was explaining, it's all about consciousness. It's all about your inner environment. And when you change your inner environment, you impact the other people around you. I was reading recently quote from a famous British economist called Keynes. And he had a very weird idea saying, quoting, in the long term, we are all dead, which means this is a very like materialistic understanding of long term. And this guy actually helped to shape the whole modern economic system we are living now. And by the way, this economic system is destroying the planet. So this assumption is based on a very materialistic, a political, a social point of view, based on not a consciential point of view. It's based on the very materialistic point of view. So we need to challenge that. This idea is destroying us. This idea of, okay, in long term, everybody will be dead. So let's destroy the planet now. Let's make profits. Let's explore all resources, because in the future, nobody will be there. Just the next generations or grandchildren. And by the way, you too will be there, because you will be reborn. You have a new life, and you gotta fix and clear all this mess you made, you know? So that's a different understanding of environmentalism, economics, politics, social, by using a consciential point of view. So I think we got to start to challenge these ideas of long term, because it's not only about the next generations. It's about us. We are going to be born in a country that you are destroying, and you got to bear with this fact. We are going to inherit all destruction we are doing. So actually, we are creating a problem to ourselves to solve in the future. Okay? And the other point is the communitary or the interdependency understanding of this whole thing. When we pollute, when we create a harm to the environment, you are not only creating a problem to yourself because you are polluting your own environment, but you're creating a problem to your neighbors here in this country or in other continents, because we are all connected. So this gives us another idea in conscientiology, which is the holokarma. The holokarma. I think one of the best contributions of paraecology is to understand in practical terms what is holokarma is, how it works, because your individual actions will impact all over the world and all over the dimensions. There was a study here at the University of Queensland, and research found out that 10% of the carbon footprint we leave in this world is connected to tourism. So when you do a tourism, when you travel to visit a different country, when you go to holidays, you are leaving a carbon footprint. So tourism is killing the planet. At least 10% of it, of those carbon emissions, is connected, according to this research, to tourism. So when you are doing something for your pleasure, for learning new cultures, or for exploring the world, you actually are killing the world. So yeah, so it makes us murderers. It makes us like responsible for the famines, for wars, for a lot of environmental or environmental crises all over the world by like being a touristic person. So these are kind of things we need to start to reflect the impact we have of our actions. How can we stop that? How can we challenge that? So the fact we start thinking about these big pictures or these big issues make us to connect to maxifraternism, to holokarma, to more advanced ideas. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to think about all these big pictures, all these big understandings of we are. We are living in a spacecraft called planet Earth. We need to look after it. We need to respect it. We need to respect the rights and the needs of everybody. And you need to find our role on this spacecraft. But we are not definitely piloting it. I think there are more evolved people that are piloting it. We are co-pilots, but we need to know our role, and we need to know how to respect all this harmony to keep everybody having like equal or similar or more fair opportunities to evolve. So I just like pointing some ideas for us to reflect in terms of ecological, social, political aspect, because the consciential point of view for me is the more important, and this doesn't need the other initial third, because the fourth one is the more open and broad than the previous third one.
Tony, we could say that change our way of looking at nature as things for evolving consciousness could be a solution. So animals, plants, bacteria, all these type of lives are conscious in our not only product or something to use, right?
Exactly. And our body is like a inner, very complex universe, you know? If you don't look at your body, if you don't eat well, for example, you are killing a lot of bacteria, you are destroying your gut, that is like the home of billions of bacteria. So yeah, if you don't look after your own health, actually you are impacting a lot of people or consciousness around you, you know? So yeah, when you see this from the consciential point of view, it's much more complex than the initial or superficial narrative that you have seen in environmentalism, or, you know, all these narratives you have seen now. Conscientiology has a huge opportunity to challenge all these views and show the world the big picture of this whole our awareness in terms of environmental.
So Clara,
So,
pass back to you.
yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, my connection dropped, but I understood that you could answer the questions very well. And time flies, and we have a few minutes yet. But Tony, how does planetary responsibility enhance parapsychism and vice versa? How parapsychism help us to improve our environmental duties? What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I think you already like addressed this topic by saying about the inner ecosystem, the inner recycling. For example, when you start working or improving your parapsychism, you start doing a lot of decluttering. You start removing a lot of rubbish from yourself, because you realize that this negativity or toxicity, it's not good for your inner environment, and it's not good for the people that are living around you, you know. You be a bad company by like being grumpy or depressed or aggressive or very conflictual person, or showing very conflictual personality. So this decluttering, this actually removing the whole rubbish you have inside of you, you know, the same thing we're trying to do with the oceans, the land, the atmosphere. We got to learn how to do this with our thoughts, behaviors, beliefs. So that's the main thing in terms of parapsychism. You cannot have, it's impossible having a lucid parapsychism if you are living in the middle of the rubbish, your internal rubbish. It won't be lucid. It will be pathological, it will be very emotional, labile, it will be very instinctual. So we need to have some inner peace or lack of conflicts, self-conflicts, and a more like serene approach in terms of our own challenges to live and express a more lucid parapsychism. Let's remember, everybody has parapsychism. It's everywhere. It's not like a gift. Parapsychism is not a gift. It's not something that like very special. Everybody has. The difference is what is the quality? What is the level of harmony? What is the maturity of your parapsychism? This is more important thing. So we gotta work on your inner ecosystem to make this parapsychism healthier and more useful and helpful to other people as well.
Yeah, it's the same with arts and sports. Some people are better from the beginning, but everybody can improve by training, by exercising, to practice, isn't it?
Yeah, but sometimes they have practiced this in past lives, and they actually are bringing all these skills right now. So it's not something that comes from nothing, you know. Even parapsychism, it comes from a lot of effort. It's like a trait you will develop now or in the future. So it's a matter of like practicing. And even the animals, the cats and dogs at home, they have parapsychism, but it's very instinctual, you know? They don't have any notion in terms of future planning. So we can use our discernment to use this as a tool for self-discovery, for self-understanding, self-reflection, or as we like to say in conscientiology, for self-research. You know, you self-research yourself. You understand how you are, where you are, and what you need to do in this life. What is your mission, your goals, your life program, and what kind of role you have in this world.
Very good. Luciana is writing here, very important topic. And just for the last question, if nobody has another one, you live in Australia, Tony, no? So tell us about the level of ecological awareness there, a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think Kim points a very good question in terms of the Aboriginal communities here in Australia. Well, in Australia, we are trying to learn how to live in harmony with the environment. And I think the best teachers are the Aboriginal people, because they have found a very balanced and sustainable way of living. And this has worked like for millennia, for like not centuries, but like a lot of thousands of years, you know? So yeah, when we start learning and sharing this kind of culture, we get much more aware about how can we protect all resources, the fauna, flora, all environment resources we have around. But Australia is not a good example for the world. We have, I think, one of the worst carbon footprints in the world. We waste a lot of energy. We have a lot of energy issues. Some government here are trying to build more nuclear plants instead of going solar or using more environmentally friendly technologies. The Great Barrier Reef is a shame, you know, we see this whole deterioration of the Great Barrier Reef. Mining is a shame here for all over the world. Australia is not a good example in terms of that as well. We have a lot of problems with like species that came from other continents that like spreading or creating imbalance of the ecosystems. Yeah, Australia is a good case study in terms of environmental and paraecology as well. But I think overall, we talk a lot about that. We put this on the agenda. It's part of the daily news. Everybody's talking about that. It's something that is like a very important topic. So this awareness, this discussion, this consciousness, or not consciousness, but this awareness about this topic, it's something that you can see in everywhere in the communities, when they are building new communities, or in terms of conservation of parks, bushfires. Wow, there's a lot of topics we can learn. But yeah, I think from my experience in living here for a while, yeah, and I had the experience to work and help Aboriginal communities as well, and they have a different sense of connection with nature. And this way of thinking, it's very insightful. So, and we can learn a lot from them in terms of how they respect, how they connect, how they interact with nature. And this is awesome. And I think Australia should share this message all over the world, because these Aboriginal communities are a good example on how to live in harmony with all this environment. So I think this is the strong trait of Australia at this stage. But we have a lot of problems here as well.
Yeah. Many good points and bad points.
Yeah.
But our time is over. Time flies. So, Professor Tony, thank you very much. It was very nice to be with you tonight in the morning in Australia. Thank you all for your questions and energy here in chat, or even without speaking anything, just watching us. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.